have gained the powers of a vampire! Sai, what's going on here? What on earth happened to you? Is it not obvious, Reggie? I have rejected my humanity and become a night creature that feeds on blood. You're a demon. You had no humanity to reject in the first place. And aren't demons already stronger than vampires? This can only be a minor boost in power for you, if anything. In fact, it may even be a detriment. Bah! Foolish mortal! What possible disadvantages could come from being a vampire? Oh, Bilatrion. Well, for one thing, all the weaknesses vampires have that demons don't have. Like, how are you even out in the sunlight right now? Perhaps this wasn't the best idea. Perhaps one of the biggest flaws of humanity is to judge something before we truly understand it, and our tendency to jump to conclusions before we have the full story. And a common victim of these judgments are animals, such as how for decades we believed pigeons to be disease-carrying rats with wings, or for centuries we believed rats to have been the cause of the Black Plague. We know better now, of course, but the damage to the public image of these animals has already been done. And the same sadly happens to monsters as well, such as how Nergigante was seen as a ruinous beast instead of a force of balance in nature. Or our monster for today's discussion. Until recently, it has been seen as a source of much mystery, but even more hatred. And so, it's time to shed some light on the Silver Duke Dragon, Malzeno. Now, Malzeno is a very interesting monster, but before we talk about him, we must talk about his greatest enemy, Geismagorm, and his greatest allies, the Curio.
Oh, hell no!
Now, we briefly went over Geismagorm before, but let's recap. 100 years ago, a massive crater opened up in the kingdom that controls the Elgato Outpost. During such time, monsters began to become unnaturally violent and aggressive, and a huge plague spread throughout the kingdom, thanks to the Curio. And all of this disturbed the surrounding ecosystem, which was the territory of Malzeno. So understandably, our boy was not too happy about this and faced off against the threat. And Malzeno was actually victorious in driving Geismagorm away, but in the fight, Geismagorm managed to afflict Malzeno with the Curio virus, and the flying leeches tried to feast on Malzeno. But the Elder Dragon was able to resist their attempts and instead managed to form a symbiosis with the little abominations, becoming their new host. Then, 50 years later, the event happened again. A crater destroying a settlement located in a grand citadel, monsters going crazy, and people becoming sick. But Geismagorm is a subterranean Elder Dragon, meaning it was underground where people couldn't see it. Meanwhile, several eyewitnesses saw Malzeno flying above and around the crater, thus all of the blame for these two separate events were placed on the Silver Duke Dragon's shoulders, making it public enemy number one of the kingdom and earning it the menacing title of the Embodiment of Darkness. Yes, because a dragon that maxes out at 81 feet is making craters in the ground the size of football fields. That totally adds up. So, a research team was formed and built the Elgato Outpost, studying the effects Malzeno supposedly had on the wildlife around it, dealing with any issues that popped up and attempting to track down the Elder Dragon itself. And eventually, they succeeded and slayed the Scarlet Feast. But this simply caused the Curio to go into overdrive, gathering up as much blood and bioenergy as they could, returning to and revitalizing Geismagorm, who returned to cause more havoc, revealing itself as the root of the problem and Malzeno as the thing actively stopping the problem. Which makes me realize we hunters have a really bad track record of solving our problems. Moga Village was sinking, we thought it was a Legiacris, it was Sedeus. Elder Dragon's going crazy, we thought it was Nergigante, it was Xenojiva, and now this. We need to rethink our strategies. Now, finally onto the Elder Dragon itself. A member of the group of kingdom monsters known as the Three Lords, alongside Garangolm and Lunagaron, it is as majestic as it is dangerous. A similar frame to Velkhana, much more slender than most other winged quadrupedal elder dragons, with gorgeous yet sinisterly dark silver scales. The back of its wings are a dull gray, but a vibrant red on the underside. The same with the fins on its tail, leading up to a golden hooked talon, very similar to its twisted golden horns, giant curved claws on 3 fingers of its front legs, and a 3-pronged tail. But interestingly, Malzeno looks like a Victorian aristocrat, its wings able to fold around its body like a cape, the frills on the sides of its neck looking like they form a cowl, and even the curio on its neck and chest look like a cravat, and the ones on its arms looking like ruffled wrist cuffs. Most typically found in the ruins of the Citadel, but also occasionally spotted in the shrine ruins and lava caverns of Kamura, Malzeno is one of the last monsters you would want to run into. They are incredibly aggressive and will attack pretty much anything they see, so the curio can drain their blood and bioenergy, further empowering the beast. This, along with its title of the embodiment of darkness, has even led to some people seeing the dragon as a vampire, which is strangely fitting and poetic in a way, as Malzeno gained these powers by inheriting the curio from Geismagorm, the archdemon of the abyss, much like how Dracula gained his powers and became a vampire from a deal with the devil. So it's aggressive and attacks as soon as it sees something, so what exactly can you expect an attack from a Malzeno to look like? Well, it has the standard moves one might expect from elder dragons of that frame. The standard bites and claw swipes, but it is also a surprisingly elegant fighter, almost like a fencer, using its tail for swift and deadly thrusts. And the fingers of its wings aren't connected in the same way as most other elder dragons of their frame, giving them much wider range of motion, similar to Namiel, allowing it to use them in combat to stab down directly with the hooks or sink them into the ground and drag them across in large sweeping motions, tearing up the ground as it goes in case it just misses a hunter. And it's highly agile in the air, allowing it to charge through the air while spiring like Legiana, do a front flip to slam its tail down on you, then thrust it forward at speeds almost too fast to react to. But despite what I just said about Malzeno being an elegant fencer, it's not afraid to fight dirty, spinning with its tail extended for massive sweeping attacks with huge range, or stabbing its wing spikes into the ground and ripping them forward to tear through the ground in a wave towards its target. In addition, it's also a practitioner of the dragon element, able to send vertical blades of black energy towards its target, a beam sent into the ground that causes shockwaves, or even infuse the energy into its curio companions and launch small groups of them at you as giant balls of dragon energy. And I mentioned before that its tail is dexterous to the point it can grab things with it, including you. He also has an attack where he pins you to the ground, then grabs you in its hand and, well, I did call it a vampire. In addition, Malzeno also can inflict you with the same deathly virus carried by the curio, but you can also be inflicted with a condition known as blood blight, which slowly drains your health. But strangely enough, attacking your enemy and drawing blood while inflicted with blood blight has been reported to restore your vitality as you absorb the blood you have drawn. So in a way, you become the vampire. But still, unless you're constantly on the attack, this is a serious detriment. So it's a good idea to get rid of it quickly, for which you will need an antidobra, a cobra that doesn't spit venom, but instead a green mist that cures just about any ailment. And after the Curio have gathered and given him enough bioenergy, Malzeno enters a state known as the Bloodening. During this state, Malzeno doubles up his efforts to kill his foe. No, literally, he doubles up almost all his attacks. 2 flipping tail slams, 2 bites, 2 dragon energy waves, etc. And his dragon element attacks become much more devastating, especially his ultimate move, where he breathes a beam of dragon energy around him in a ring, before breathing it straight down into a giant energy ball, which then explodes and sends blades of dragon energy everywhere. Oh, and did I forget to mention, in this mode, he can teleport?
Excuse me, the fuck did you just say?
Okay, I am being a bit disingenuous here. It's not actual teleportation. He's just using the smoke of dragon energy to make a smoke bomb, then move from point A to point B incredibly fast. But honestly, that might actually be more scary than teleporting, because if he can move that fast, what's stopping him from attacking that fast? Also, just because he has a thinner frame, don't mistake him for being weaker, because he has more than enough brute force to throw Lunagaron around like a ragdoll with its tail and contend with top-level threats like Velkhana and even scorned Magnamalo. Now, all of that might sound horrifying and make you believe Malzeno is invincible, but you'll be happy to know that is not the case. In fact, Malzeno actually has a surprising number of weaknesses, being vulnerable to 3 of the 5 elements. Dragon being its greatest weakness, with fire being slightly less effective, and ice still being a decent choice against him. So as long as you don't bring water or thunder weapons, you'll have a solid chance. In addition, Ice Blight is also great for quickly tiring the beast out, and Blast also does some decent damage. Also, much like afflicted monsters, if you attack the glowing parts of its body the Curio are on, you can knock it out of its bloodening state. And, you know, take out some Curio too, that's always nice. And of course, the armor is amazing. Exactly what you'd expect from such a gorgeous dragon, and it gives you the ability known as Blood Awakening, basically making you a vampire that steals monsters' vitality for yourself as you attack. But ultimately, Malzeno's tale is a tragic one, for the Malzeno we know only came about thanks to the Curio. It used to be a peaceful monster that, while yes, was still a wild animal and defended its territory, it mostly lived in harmony with the people of the kingdom and defended the area around the kingdom that was its territory from threats, inadvertently protecting the kingdom as well, leading some to even revere it as a guardian of the kingdom, and it was believed to be a monster that kept balance in nature similarly to Nergigante. But because of the fight with Geismagorm, it was afflicted and forced into symbiosis with the Curio, its behavior darkening as it became more sly and vicious, and even its appearance changing, its horns twisting along with its mind. It saved the kingdom, but lost its soul in the process.
I need a moment.
So, obviously, Malzeno is incredibly dangerous and aggressive and should be avoided at all costs. But like I said, this is due to the influence of the Curio. So you might be wondering, what would Malzeno be like without the Curio? Well, for that we must look no further than the legend-resurrected primordial Malzeno. So, this Malzeno is a variant of the normal one, although it's a similar situation to Red Kezu. Red red being how they normally are, but the white one being much more common, so it's considered the standard. Primordial Malzeno is how a Malzeno looks when it is first born into the world, only becoming the way a standard Malzeno is once it bonds with the Curio. But Primordial is considered the variant because, unfortunately, it's so much more common to see a Malzeno that has bonded with the flying leeches. And as of yet, we do not know if a Malzeno will return to being a Primordial Malzeno if separated from the Curio for long enough. So while still the same creature, Primordial Malzeno is about as different from the original as you could imagine. Instead of the dark, sinister colors of the normal one, Primordial is a beautiful shining silver with golden edging, with much more and much thicker plating than the original to replace the Curio, almost resembling armor, giving it a more knight-like appearance as opposed to the normal's vampiric one. And the ominous red is replaced by a gorgeous bluish purple, and its horns are far less twisted. And it's much larger and more muscular, giving it a much sturdier appearance to the toothpick that is normal Malzeno. And its behavior is also the complete opposite. Yes, it's still a wild animal and can be ruthless in defending its territory, but if you keep your distance and show it respect, it wouldn't dream of harming you. And it's even believed to be smart enough to understand human emotions, such as gratitude or hatred. And best of all, they fucking hate the Curio! Still, it is entirely possible you will have to fight a Primordial on occasion, so what does this variant bring to the table? Well, whereas normal Malzeno was a fencer, Primordial Malzeno is a much more traditional knight. As I said before, its wing fingers are not traditionally connected to its wing membranes, allowing it to move them much more freely, which Primordial uses far better than normal Malzeno, turning its wings into weapons similarly to Valstrax. Now, obviously, it can't completely copy Valstrax and reconfigure its wings to reach like 3 times its body length, but they can still be used by folding its wings up to become like swords, perfect for thrusting, slashing, or slamming down on an opponent. It also uses its wings as shields, both to protect itself and charge down and ram opponents, while also using its tail as a spear for thrusting, sweeping, and even grabbing you, then dropping you to the ground like a piece of trash. I haven't seen a creature that disrespectful since Velvet. No, not that one. Velvet with 2 T's and an E at the end. Yes, that's the one. And it does still seem to have access to its dragon element, but it hardly seems to use it unless absolutely necessary, preferring an honorable bout of pure strength. And you might be thinking that it might be weaker without the benefits of the Curio, but let me assure you, that is absolutely not the case. The Curio have become something of a crutch for normal Malzeno to lean back on, not having to rely on their natural strength. So, much like if you don't go to the gym and use your muscles and strength, you gradually lose them. So too did normal Malzeno lose its strength, to the point their armor plating even degraded as it started to weigh them down. But Primordial, who does use its natural strength and durability, is on another level. Case in point, a Velkhana is a worthy foe for a normal Malzeno, but Primordial Malzeno absolutely dominates the Iceborne Wyvern. But the Curio do not like that this stronger version of one of their natural symbiotic partners refused to join them, and thus they will stop at nothing to try to overtake them. And while he can normally stave off an attack from them, should he get distracted by a fight and lose focus, the Curio can get to him, attempting to bond with him, which will force him into the bloodening state. You may think at this point it would just fight like a regular Malzeno, but no. It still keeps its normal set of skills, but also adds the skills of a normal Malzeno on top of it, teleporting and doubling up its attacks. And now they're much more willing to use their dragon element and with far more control over it, such as readying 3 dragon charged Curio spheres that will fire fire giant beams of dragon energy as well. It also does a similar ring of dragon energy, but rather than a downward beam to detonate it, it slams both wings down, sending dragon blades in all directions. And of course, its ultimate attack, where it takes to the sky and rains down countless balls of dragon energy that become blades and travel in all directions upon hitting the ground, before Primordial Malzeno teleports just above its chosen target and unleashes a burst of dragon energy that puts Teostra's supernova to shame. But eventually, after being injured enough, Primordial Malzeno will enter a new form known as Bloodlust, where the excess bioenergy from the curio actually seems to burn it. Its scales going completely black, and its wing membranes, mouth, head crest, and gaps between its scales start to glow brightly with fiery orange light, almost like a risen elder dragon. In this state, it becomes even more powerful and aggressive, and it seems to master how to use the curio, mixing its dragon powers and ability to teleport perfectly with its natural physical skills to make it an absolute nightmare to fight. Again, I know this is absolutely haunting at this point, but remember, no monster is truly invincible, and Primordial Malzeno is no exception. It shares all the same elemental weaknesses, and almost all ailments except for exhaust are decently effective, with blast being highly effective. And just like normal Malzeno, Primordial can be knocked out of the bloodening state by attacking its glowing parts. But most notably, once it reaches the Bloodlust state, it actively tries to fight the influence of the curio, leaving it open for attacks, and on very rare occasions, it's even possible to totally free them from the influence of the curio. And once again, the armor is absolutely beautiful, perfectly befitting of a regal and noble knight. But ultimately, despite how powerful and dangerous this Malzeno can be, it does have a vital role in the world. Again, even though it is likely only trying to protect its territory, Primordial Malzeno is aware of the threats dangerous creatures like Geismagorm and the Curio present, and fights fiercely to drive off the subterranean elder dragon, and does all it can to purge any curio in the environment it can find, which has the happy little benefit of assisting the kingdom and surrounding territories, so it is undoubtedly a balancing force in nature similarly to Nergigante, albeit less deliberately. And it is even aware when people are trying to help it, such as when my daughter Sira and Dame Fiorane fought the curio in order to protect Primordial Malzeno, the creature even silently thanking them with a nod before going to purge the rest of the curio. So in a way, it earns its title as the Guardian Knight of the Kingdom. So, there you have it, ladies and swordsmen. That is my take on the lore for Malzeno. It is an incredibly amazing monster. I love just about everything about it. Its visuals, like I said, its kind of vampire theme it's got going on is really cool, and its backstory is really kind of tragic, but also amazing and intriguing at the same time, and I absolutely adore Primordial Malzeno. It's just regular Malzeno kicked up to 11 and does so much more amazing stuff with like its wings, folding them up into swords, actually using its tail to grab your hunter, and the way it actually fights against the curio when it's in its bloodlust state is really cool, and I like how, you know, it can be presented as a balancing force of nature like Nergigante, like I said, even if, again, like I said, it doesn't seem to be as deliberate as Nergi. But still, really cool monster, really fun fight, just everything about it is amazing, and of course I love its armor and weaponry, all of it just absolutely beautiful, stunning, 10 out of 10. I'm looking forward to that, and hopefully you guys are too. But for now, thank you all so much for watching. If you like this and want to see more, go ahead and slash that subscribe button. If you like this video, give a quick cut to the like button. Leave a comment down below. Share it around with all your friends. Be sure to click the notification bell so you never miss it when I upload a video. And be sure to follow me on Twitter and Facebook. Then I'll see you in the next video. But until then, ladies and swordsmen, stay sharp.